This is Power Forward.
All right, welcome back to Power Forward. Justin White alongside Mateen Cleaves. Mateen, how you doing, my friend?
Oh, Justin, what's up, baby? I am flying high, man. I'm kind of like soaring, baby. It's all good.
Well, I would say that we are already off and running here, and that is very much pun intended, because today's show is going to be a lot about running. And Mateen, you know me, running is such an integral part of my life. I love doing it. I've been a runner for years. You're getting into running now. So we're going to talk running. We're going to talk business. We're going to talk being a small business owner during the pandemic, as we welcome in Chris Lampen-Crowell, who is the co-founder of Gazelle Sports. It's a running shoe store based here in Michigan. They have 5 retail locations. They have been in business since 1985. And Chris, you have been there since the very beginning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, way to age me, man. Yeah. I turned 60 this year, and but I'm happy to still be running and moving and trying to stay healthy. And that's at the core of who I am and how I self-identify, as a runner and before being a business person, for sure. So it's great to be here with you, Justin and Mateen. What an honor.
Well, we're going to get into, how the business began and all the different things you've experienced over the years. But just to start off with, maybe to my previous point, when you sit back, Chris, and think about being in business and having that kind of staying power for 35 years, what thoughts come to mind for you?
Yeah, well, there definitely is pride. I mean, I think that, you can't say there isn't pride to say you've opened doors and worked extremely hard. But you also look back and go, there were a lot of lucky breaks and a lot of support along the way. And that's important part of it is like, it's not just a single person or a couple guys doing this. It becomes a team. It becomes a community. That becomes, a brand that means something beyond just our 4 walls. And that's what I think Gazelle has become for people. Even during this stressful time, with the pandemic and social unrest, there's just people gravitate to who we are because of not because of me, but because of our team, because of our leadership, and because of the investments that we make back in the community. So it's a fun thing to do. So I would say fun would be part of that. Those words that I think back on.
Nice. And guys, let me tell you, he said he's 60, and I'm looking at this guy. He should have taken a bow when he said that, because guys, he looks great. I wouldn't have guessed he was 60 just looking at his appearance. So kudos to you for that, Chris. But you mentioned team, and I know you have a co-owner, and but to me, it's super important when you're trying to grow a business or you're trying to be successful in anything. I look at entertainers and, people that win championships or whatever, and it seems like they always revert back to the team. It's not just me, it's other people that help me. So can you dive a little bit in that and talk about the importance of having a good team around you?
Yeah, well, I think there's this business concept of the E-Myth, it's called. There's a book I read a long time ago where, this person is really good at baking bread, and then she tries to expand and she can't because she won't let anyone else bake her bread. And so it's like when I first started 35 years ago, I was really good at selling shoes, really good at selling, great at relationship development. But if I was the only one selling shoes because I thought I'm the only one, I'm the best, and they need the best, then it would have never worked. So building a business or building a championship team or whatever, it is about bringing other people along, training them, and rooting them in hopefully the same beliefs and values that I have or you have, because once they get energized by those values and that philosophy of the team, it resonates and it amplifies. And I think that's huge. And so what we've been able to do, growing to 5 stores and growing some other businesses, is really bring on people that love what we do, and then they take over, and we were able to delegate and really bring people forward in terms of what they do best. I don't know if you've ever heard of a thing called Strength Finder. but that's a Gallup thing. And what we really focus on is what are the top 5 strengths of these people? Because if they're working in their top 5 strengths, they're going to really, number one, they're going to love it. Number two, they're going to be really good at it. So instead of looking at like, oh, we really need to develop this person's weaknesses, no, let's get them in their strengths and watch them go. So, we've been able to do that. And then lastly, I think, and maybe we can talk about this later a little bit, as I look at, my future, it's like, love to have Gazelle Sports continue with legacy and stuff like that, but I don't want to be that old guy that's coming into the office and going, who's that? So we've actually developed a young leadership team of the next generation. And we have just named our first CEO that leads that team. And these are people, men and women in their 30s, and that are, ready to take this for the next 30 years or the next 35. So that's part of being a team too, is like passing the ball to the next generation, right?
It's a great, just a great way to think, in terms of, your business, not just like you said for now, but for years down the road. I want to go back though to a word that you mentioned in your previous answer to Mateen's question, and it was the word values. Because when you look at your company and the niche that you've carved out for yourselves here in the state of Michigan, there's obviously something that people love about Gazelle Sports. There's a reason why they go into the store to buy shoes, and because you can go on any website now and buy running shoes. I mean, it's crazy. You don't just have to go to a running specific website to get them, but there's obviously a reason why you guys have had success and you've had that staying power over the years. So Chris, how much do you attribute that to the values that your company has built?
Well, I think it's really important. I think it's a very foundational thing that then people feel consistency around, and they build trust around it. So it's not something. These are not things that change. I mean, you can say, here's what we aspire to, but how do you act together? What are the ways that are really critical, that are really foundational in a business, or it could be a family, it could be a church, it could be wherever. It's like you have to have those foundation values that connect people, because those things wake us up to get us to work, to go, this makes a difference, because we all want to make a difference. And we want to do our best at work, obviously, but we also want to make a difference. So having those values are critical. And, we not only, post them, but we train about it, we talk about it, we communicate about it. So they're living, is my point. They're living values. They're not just like, oh yeah, here's our beautiful words up framed on a wall or something.
Oh man, that's big time. And I tell you what, we're setting you up, Chris, because see, we're throwing questions out there and then we're just dissecting what you say. Okay, Justin, you said values. Justin jumped on that. You just said trust. That's one of my favorite words, man, especially in business or teammates or whatever it is. Trust. Can you talk a little bit about, building trust and how important it is to get people to trust you? I think creating consistency with people coming back, or even people spending money with you. I think trust is super huge when you talk about doing the things that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I think, again, anywhere, it's like, I think, let me just go backwards and say, my leadership early on was, I thought I needed to inspire everybody. So inspiration was a part of what I was doing and trying to do. And I probably overdid. I overcommitted. I overdid, where instead of really focusing on the trust that you're talking about, because trust comes through vulnerability and the ability to be honest. And a lot of times that's very uncomfortable. Like for me, in my past, it'd be much easier for me to get up and do a rah-rah speech and let's get going. And people would follow that. But it's more trusting if you get up and say, hey, we're doing great. Here's what we're doing. I'm feeling this. This is what I'm having a hard time with. And having these real conversations. And real conversations can be uncomfortable sometimes if people are, and leaders necessarily don't want to show people their vulnerability. But that's, I think, now that with emotional intelligence, with the focus on really, like I'm going to just say the whole diversity, equity, racism stuff going on in the social unrest. It's like, I have to get in that and be uncomfortable. It's like, it's not about, oh, let me be comfortable. Let me talk about this in a comfortable way. No, it's like, let's open it up. Let's rip it up and be honest. And that's where trust comes from. That's the foundation of trust, I think.
Chris, when you go back to the beginning, did you always see yourself being a business owner? Did you see yourself being in a position of leadership? How did you get to the point where you said to yourself, you know what? I think I'm going to open up a shop and sell running shoes to people?
Yeah, well, there were probably some hints along the way when I was an adolescent that I organized the greatest race in my neighborhood, and I organized multiple events for a bunch of boys in our neighborhood to do. So that was that. But what I ended up liking in high school and college was science. So, I was all about, biology and chemistry and physics and heading in that direction. But I was running for Western Michigan University on the track and field team and started working in a little running shop and ended up like, well, this is what my passion is. I love this. And so really, I think for me, it's God's grace of saying, here, open this door, walk through it. I'll hold you in this space. And that's what happened. So we were able to build Gazelle Sports out of a passion versus out of any knowledge. So I had no business knowledge, no business degree, this science guy coming in and trying to figure out how to run a business, but a lot of passion.
Now, I'm sure everything didn't just go your way in trying to build it. I know you had passion about it, but I'm sure you ran into some adversity along the way. Can you give us a few things that you might have run into adversity-wise while you were trying to build your business?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, number one, not having a business degree, there's some definite deficits there where, I had very little financial knowledge. I had very little knowledge about human resources other than, I knew I loved building relationships. So these key parts of a business, those blind spots, really haunted us for a while as we were in our first 5 years of our business, really doing things we loved and people would come on board and our customers loved it. But the back end of the business, the structural functioning of the business, the financial end and the human resource end was really not there until we brought, my partner in, and she was able to really help, really strengthen us in the back end. So I think, you're always looking at probably like you do in basketball. It's like, hey, I need a center right now. I don't need another point guard. It's like, he's really good or she's amazing. But like what I need is this center. Otherwise we're never going to get to a championship. So adding people that weren't like me were important parts of discovering how to run business. So people that had different skill sets were an important thing. So we really, even though we were growing the first 5 years, we weren't making any money. And at one point we had, as we expanded from our Kalamazoo store, which was first, to our Grand Rapids store was second, we had the bank say, look, we'll give you another 6 months. and then we're going to ask you to, be done with this. So basically,
wow. Yeah.
So, but we knew we were on the right track and luckily we were able to, endure that part of it. But the other things are, I think it's easy to overinvest in certain things and not pay attention to all parts of a business. And so, learning, we overinvested sometimes in our people. And expanded too quickly. We overinvested in some community things that we were doing and overinvested. So you have to be able to continually evaluate and review and analyze and then adapt. Adaptation, I mean, that's a word right now that really makes sense for everybody. We all have to adapt. Yes. But I think the ability to adapt, to analyze what you're doing and adapt to new reality is critical And we didn't do that as well as we should have early on. So, it's easy to say, yeah, we have it all figured out, but you never have it all figured out, right? We had it all figured out last February, and then everything blew up.
Right.
Now we have to figure everything out again.
Hey, Mateen, I got one for you here, and it kind of ties to the question you just asked Chris. He didn't mention this, but you're gonna love this, because this is all about dealing with adversity. And Chris, this goes back to when you were first trying to get the business off the ground. You told me that you had this plan in place, and you went to 7 banks, and you got rejected 7 times.
What?
How did you? So tell us about that and how you were able to push through that adversity and still get your business up and off the ground.
Yeah, well, I think this is a small business story, and I think most small businesses have a similar story. And whether it's a restaurant or a retailer or whatever, it's like banks aren't there for risk taking, as much as I thought they were at that point. It was like somebody told us you need to write a really good business plan. So we wrote a significant business plan. And had some really good guidance on how to build that business plan. And then I owned an old Honda Civic, and my co-founder owned a Fuji bicycle. That's what we owned. So we had no collateral. So we come into these banks, they'd say, well, I'll take it to the committee. This is a beautiful business plan. And we heard that every time. This is a beautiful business plan. And then we hear later, it's like, we love what you guys are doing, and hopefully you'll be successful, but we just can't take the risk. And this is 1985 when interest rates were at 14%. I don't think people can even think about what paying 14% is, but that we were trying to borrow money at 14%. So we went back to really friends and family, and really it was friends and family that came forward, and a significant support from a peer. That actually is still one of my best friends that was in the industry and said, you guys need to start your store. He already had a store up and running. And then once he came on board, then a bank came on board and said, we'll give you $10,000, but it was very little money. So that's the story. It's like, but it was amazing. We got a lease in downtown Kalamazoo, and we were so dumb. We told people we're going to open December 7th, but we didn't get to in there until December 1st. So we literally had 6 days to get our store ready. And so it was like only through friends and family again that helped us get the store ready so we could open December 7th.
Wow. That's powerful. And you were sitting there talking about the banks, and I'm sitting here thinking in my head, they're saying, well, we like you. This is a really good, business plan. And I'm thinking, we don't want you to like us. We need you to love us. Because if you love us, sign the document, give us the money. That's what we need. And it's funny, Chris, because I hear, and Justin, I'm sure you the same thing, these stories over and over and over again where people went and got turned away. A music artist that's trying to get signed. They go to 4 different companies and get turned away, and then somebody signed them. Or business plans, they go to so many people. But I think the message in that was that you continue to believe in yourself, in your business plan, and you didn't give up. I think that's what I really took from that. And that was, be honest, inspirational, that you guys 7 times and you didn't give up and you kept moving forward. So I think that's super important. It's super huge for our listeners to hear from you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, you do have to believe in yourself and maybe be a little naive, whether you're opening a business or having a child, or it's like, I believe in this, but I'm a little naive on it.
Hey, so sometimes that's exactly what it takes. And as you have this business model, Chris, for your store, I know that a big focus for you was on community, and really carving out that niche in the community and focusing heavily on customer service. What was the mindset? What is the mindset to this day for you when it comes to really endearing yourself to the community and giving your customers the top level of service that's out there?
Yeah, well, number one, we think, and I personally believe, that running and fitness is a transformational thing for most people. you may not like running, so you can find something. You can do cycling, you can do you can do Pilates, you can do yoga, you can do other things. You can walk, you can hike. There's lots of things you can do. But when you start moving your body and start believing, back to that believing in yourself, you start connecting to other parts of yourself that are like that self-esteem and self-respect changes. And not only does that change, but all of a sudden, what you're eating may change, what your peer group can change, what you're talking about changes. So this sense of personal transformation, and then becomes cultural transformation in communities that build healthy communities. You're looking at, more and more people as they come outside to get outside during this pandemic. That's a cultural thing that is going to be very positive as we go forward. We want those people to keep walking and running and cycling, and getting out and hiking in our parks and stuff like that. So the community to us was such an important part of our ethos and what we believed would not only were we selling shoes, but we were then helping people become healthier. And that's again, what am I doing to make a difference? So that's the feel good when I go home at night. That's the get me up in the morning kind of feeling that we're making a difference. And then how we treat people, one of our values is care, and how we treat people with respect and I would say even love and kindness is so critical. And it's something that I think has been part of retail long ago, and still you can still find it out there, but it's most of retail now is transactional. It's like you look for a product, you get a product, it's a low price, whatever, and you're done. Where in Gazelle Sports and other retailers that I believe in and I value, it's more about, hey, who are you? What do you need? Oh, and what's your family doing? Oh, and you have these grandkids. And who's Chris? It's not like what products am I buying? It's who's Chris? Who's Justin? Who's Mateen? And as you build those relationships, those are more significant. And that's really the soul of a business, I believe, is those relationships, both internally and externally. So, those two things just go hand in hand.
Oh, man, super important. And you said one of my favorite words again, care. When you care, it's fun to get up and go to work. I'm sure when you care about what you're doing, it's not about, yes, financially, you make money, you're able to support yourself and your family, but knowing that you're helping people and care is very important. And you hit on something else, customer service. It's important. Hey guys, people that have businesses, I'm one of those people that still value customer service. If I get good customer service, I am coming back. I'm coming back. I don't, it could be a product that's just the same as another, but just because of that customer service and that relationship building and care and all, that is super important, Chris. So I'm glad you said that. It don't matter how good your product is. If you're a bad person, you're going to lose on a lot of people. You're going to lose on a lot of opportunities. So I think that's very important. And I hope people that you are taking notes, because he is almost preaching right now. He is preaching the gospel. He's telling some good stuff that's going to help you grow.
And that, Chris, I would think the point Mateen just made ties heavily back to what you were talking about when building a team. Because I would think that when you're hiring people for your team, you've got to think very carefully about, can this person build the kind of relationships that we as a business need to carry this model forward, to make sure our brand stays intact? Maybe talk about that a little bit, just, about adding people to your team and how they have to be a culture fit, making sure that they are aligned 100% with the philosophy and the foundation that you already have in place as a business. Yeah,
well, I think number one, I think you're right on. We do have a way that we bring people on board that gives them a deep sense of orientation around who we are, particularly for our salespeople. They end up going through 60 plus hours of training, and 60 plus hours of training might not sound a lot, but for retail, that's a lot of training. So we take them through this, what we call the Gazelle Sports Marathon. And so they have 26 miles that they have to go, and they get trained. And so that's part of it. But what happens then is some people exit during that because it's like, this is not my thing. And that's okay, because it's like all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I want to work at a store, but I don't want to work on this kind of store. And that's okay. But the people that stick are awesome. I mean, because they start, believing it. And then the thing about culture is that when you build a culture, a positive, healthy culture, I don't have to go talk to everybody, because it's everybody building that culture together, right? And so, that standard is high, and we have some really amazing culture builders in our management. So that is really critical too, is like making sure our managers really, are loved and can express that love back, because I think that's important as you come into every location is going to be a little different, but everybody should feel the same thing. It's like, yeah, I want to be here because I believe in what we're doing. So yeah, I think that's the most important. But I think training is easy to say, but hard to do. So I think every industry says we're going to train our people more, and then they look at their financials and go, God, we're spending all this on training. Let's cut this down. Whereas instead of saying, let's lean in, let's make sure our people are trained well, and really have the not just the tools, the equipment that they need, and whether it's technology or whatever. But let's make sure that they have the essential humanness that they need and how they do. So one of the things I may have told you this last time, but we use Brene Brown a lot, and her Dare to Lead book is one of, I think, the most important business books. Even though it's about culture and courage and vulnerability, it's an amazing book for leaders, and so we have all of our leaders working in that Dare to Lead kind of arena.
Wow, and it's funny, Justin, because we got to check on Chris, because I think he's taking a look at our playbook here at UWM. I mean, it's like you speaking everything that we're talking about: values, trust, care, customer service, and training. And now let me ask you this, because you seem super big on training. Now, what was that the idea from day one, or was it kind of trial and error with the training aspect side of things?
Yeah, great question. It actually was something I totally believed in. My parents were professors, and so they were in education, and so I was a big education kind of guy in terms of like my personal values. And so learning is one of our 5 values. So it always was, and I think training is the same thing. You have to adapt to the new environment you're in. But there's certain parts of training we keep, and then we keep adapting to the new situations. But we always have been focused on training and learning as one of our key elements of Gazelle Sports success. And we ask our staff how we're doing in it. I mean, you don't want to just go, hey, I got it all figured out. It's like, or your leadership team has it all figured out. You got to keep asking for feedback, because that's where we get a lot of great ideas in terms of, hey, this didn't really work. This training didn't work for me, or whatever. So then you can adapt again.
All right, Chris. So you've hit us with 2 of your 5 company values. You talked about care and you talked about excellence. Fill us in on the other 3.
Yeah. So I said learning, right? So you already threw down excellence. So that is, and excellence isn't something that you ever come to. That old Tom Peters book, In Search of Excellence. That's what you're looking for. And then I think so excellence is not only how you treat customers, but also excellence is in the back end again of how you're disciplined, right? You're disciplined in your company. You're disciplined in your communications. You're disciplined in your product flow. You're disciplined in your financial records. You're disciplined in your benefits and things like that. So that excellence is it overlies everything that you do. And then community. We've talked about community, but that is really one of our values that we continue to hold up. And even during this pandemic, even though we couldn't get together and do events and training, we moved everything virtual. So there's tons of people that are still running with us. And we just had a virtual 5K where we had hundreds of people, running with us, virtually and stuff. And so Great Lakes and Go, it was called. And then lastly is active living. I mean, it's what we believe in. It's what is essential to people, I believe, and it's essential to Gazelle Sports, is that, you continually live actively. And so we're into promoting and supporting our employees pursuing their own active living, and then we will encourage others to do it, and then we celebrate it. So those are things that are really, really important to us. And it's really, that's a real key piece of Gazelle Sports is living the active living, knowing that we're all on our own path. So it's not the same thing. It's not, we're all ultra marathoners. Like, no, some of us are just getting out and walking a few miles with our dogs, but we're into active living, and we're going to support each other on that.
And, excellence, let me rewind and go a little bit back to excellence. I'm sorry, because I think it's important. And I am one of those people that strive for excellence. Now, will I ever get there? Who knows? But it keeps me going. I've run across people, though, and I got to ask this because I've run across people that strive so much for excellence, they don't take the time to enjoy some of the small victories. Or, it's like they don't enjoy what they're doing because it's like it's never enough. Okay. How do you find that balance to continue to strive for excellence, but yet enjoy it? You know what I mean? And getting great, enjoy what you're doing.
I would have to say balance is something that I didn't believe in before. As I was trying to grow this business, I'd talk to my wife and we'd talk about, hey, we're going to go on vacation here and I'm going to be really focused. But back at work, I'm maybe, spending 70 hours at work where I'm not balanced. So I would say you're probably not talking to the right guy understanding balance, but I finally figured it out. And balance is an important word in my life now. And really in the last 6 to 8 years, I've tried to reset myself in terms of family and fun, like you said, balanced with work and community versus just all about me and all about community and all about my business. So I think it's really, really critical. And again, I'm going to say this, it's easy to say but harder to practice because it's like a muscle memory, right? You have to practice having fun, practice having deep conversations with your wife that go on for hours, practice meditation or prayer, practice, I run. So I run 5 days a week, and it's like, practice that. Whatever you're into, practice it because that balance is critical.
Oh, yeah. And I just wanted to slide that in because, like I said, I'm big on striving for excellence. That's what keeps me going. But I've run across some people, and I'm like, man, you're doing great. Like, you look so tired and drained every day, but you're doing fantastic. So, sometimes you got to know when to say, hey, man, I am doing a good job, but continue to set another goal and push higher.
That's right. Yeah.
And to tie that, Mateen, to running, and Chris, I know you're a runner, so you're going to, know what I'm talking about here. It's like oftentimes you get to the end of a race, and it's a great feeling, right, when you cross that finish line. But for me personally, especially looking back to the days when I was running marathons, I always looked back and really savored the journey to get to that destination. All the hard work that went into that moment of crossing the finish line. And I know that all the time you've been doing this, owning your business and running, you've encountered lots of runners, probably hundreds, if not thousands of different runners. So I got to ask you about the tie between, having that fitness, that physical activity, and also success. Because, Mateen, we've had so many people on the podcast who are successful in business, and a lot of them have a routine, and it involves exercise. A lot of them get up to the first thing they do, roll out of bed, get that workout in. It sets them up for the rest of their day, and really, to an extent, determines how successful they are for the rest of that day. So, Chris, I want you to dive into that, just what you've experienced over the years and talking to people and how much physical fitness, whether it's running or anything else, plays in the ability to go out there and have a successful rest of your day.
Well, thanks. I think, now we can actually go to science and I like to follow, structured plans to run in my running. So it is about the journey. It's about, there's recovery days, there's hard days, there's long days, different paces and all that. But the science of exercise now not only says your heart and your lungs are going to work better, but your brain is going to, the real strong science now is that you actually get smarter as you're doing endurance sports. So getting out, and this includes walking, getting out and walking for 40, 50, 60 minutes makes a big difference on your brain activity and brain development. It also connects you with other things that enhance life. So I think so that's not just your brain and the mental, it's your emotional. So that stability emotionally is really great. And then for me, I would say it's also time for creativity. I'm out I'm getting my ideas and thinking about how can I implement things, because I run primarily on my own right now. And I think that is an awesome thing. And I think that people can find that whether they're swimming or biking or whatever. It's like you can find this sense of creativity in your own life and really bring that to bear and implement, which feels great, right? So I think, it's easy to say, here's the physical components of why you should run or why you should bike or why you should walk. But what also are the other components that will make your day great, what you're saying? Because if you're going to be, a salesperson, if you're going to be, a broker, if you're going to be, a church leader, if you're going to be an educator, all these things take your whole self, not just one part of you, but your whole self. And so that's what I think exercise, it opens doors to these other parts of yourself that then can be expressed in more fluidity. There's more of a flow to it.
Well, you got me at getting smarter. If it's going to make me smarter, then I'm going to go. I'm running a marathon next week, guys. I can tell you that right now.
Oh, boy. See what you did now?
Okay, well, that's not smart, Mateen, to go from.
Yeah, we got to train you up, man.
Yeah. Right.
We don't want you to get hurt. No, but you know what? It's funny you just talked about that, because I have this quote pulled up that I've saved on my computer for a long time, and I'll read it to you guys. It says, "Running is alone time that lets my brain unspool the tangles that build up over days. I run, pound it out on the pavement, channel that energy into my legs, and when I'm done with my run, I'm done with it."
I like that.
Yeah, I like that as well. And let me ask you this, Chris, because you've run, pretty much your whole life thus far. And how much is mental toughness? How because I think mental toughness is super big in running, because I think sometimes people don't think they can go further, and it's mental and you can push yourself further. And I think mental toughness is important in business. So can you talk a little bit about, having that mental toughness when you have adversity in business, or when you're running and having to push yourself to continue to go further?
Yeah, there's so many parallels there, Mateen. I think you're right on. I think it's as I'm running a long run, I'm going to come up against a lot of times when I just really just want to, my brain saying, hey, it's time to stop, or, take a break or whatever. And it's like, no, I can push through this. I can push through this moment. So, there's in running, you're going to face pain. You're going to face your body and your mind saying you're doing too much, or, stop, or whatever. And you need to find that mental toughness of pushing through. And it's really back to what you were saying, the belief in yourself. It's like, I'm doing this for myself. I know I'll be better. And I had a run 2 weeks ago where the last 3 miles, I just had to chant 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, because I was not feeling good. And so it just was mental toughness. But you know what? I got done with it. The next week I went out on my long run, and it was like one of the easiest long runs I ever had. And it was like amazing. So, it's like, it can be that day that you need to go, there's mental toughness right now. So yeah, I think it's critical. And then you do bring that into the rest of your life. No doubt about it.
Well said. Yeah.
training, it's like for me, running too is like I do some track workouts, and track workouts, people don't really like track workouts. A lot of people don't because they feel intimidated of track. But for me, it is that mental discipline that Mateen's talking about. That's like, I like getting on the track and trying to push myself, not to breaking, but push myself enough that it's like, okay, there's exhaustion there, and I know I can work through it.
So probably sounds that just sounded similar to what you were thinking, or what you were dealing with in the early days of your business. Like the physical. It's like the ties between sports and business, or in this case, running, physical activity and business. It's like you gotta tell yourself, you gotta have that discipline to keep pushing through the pain.
Yeah.
You mentioned community too, Chris, and for a lot of our listeners, entrepreneurs out there who are trying to carve out their own niche in the community and grow their business. I want you to talk a little bit about giving back because I know that's been a big thing for Gazelle Sports. I know you guys started a foundation. You take a portion of your profits and put it towards that. I know it all ties to kind of your mission as a company. So talk about what you guys have done to give back, and then also your advice for our listeners who are trying to do the same thing, and how giving back really can help your business and help others at the same time.
Yeah, there's two parts of this. I think that for business owners and people that are out there in the community is that if you're in the community, you're going to get asked a lot. I bet Justin and Mateen, you both get asked a lot to give, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think getting an awareness of where you want to give and how you want to give is super critical, especially for young entrepreneurs and young business people, because it's just so easy to say yes to everything, and there's so many needs that but you can't fulfill them all. So you have to okay, where are we going to give? So we established that we're going to be able to give in the areas around movement. So if some kids come and say, will you give us money for our school trip? It's like, man, I'd love those kids to have that school trip, but it's not part of what we give to around movement and fitness. So having those boundaries makes a lot of sense. And then also knowing that you can give in multiple ways. You can give money, you can give time, you can give ideas. One of the things I did with a church here in town was I helped them develop a strategic plan around their getting their kids more fit. So for 2 years, I worked with them on developing and then implementing a strategic plan. And it was a beautiful thing because they implemented it and it came out. So I wasn't giving money, I was giving some of my expertise around strategic planning. So there's different ways you can give. You have talents that other people may need other than just money. So, but money is important too. And so for us, it was really important as we saw part of our vision is to enable, anybody to be able to run and be fit, right? But that didn't always work with our business because there were so many people and organizations that needed money that weren't necessarily our customer base, which is okay, but they still needed money. So what we did is we set up this foundation where we look to 2% of our profits, and then part of our money from our events goes to fund this foundation. And the foundation, what it does is it takes grants and provides organizations that are decreasing barriers to fitness for whether it's disabled people or people at risk or people that have financial needs that we can't help through our business. So we're giving that money away on an annual basis. And it not only feels good, but it also, for us, it's another part of the puzzle of helping build a culture of fitness that isn't necessarily about just my customer base. Because I think a lot of people think, well, what's this going to do for my customer base? And you should have that focus in your business, but then you can do other things. And so that's what our foundation was meant to be.
I love it. I love it. And when you do things like that, when you just do it from the kindness of your heart, I know people always say, well, I haven't felt good in such a long time. Well, go out and help somebody. if you go out and help someone, trust me, you'll feel good. It's such a great feeling. And you talked about, giving. It's not all about money. Money helps. We all know that. But you hit on giving your time and ideas because, I see people all the time, they sit around and they count, rich people's money. Oh, man, they should give this and, they should give that. Well, no, you can give too. You can help. You give your ideas. You can go up to local boys and girls clubs and, go to these different community foundations and give your time and ideas. It's not all about money. So I'm glad you said that because I think it's super important for people to hear. You don't have to be a multimillionaire to be able to help give back to your community. It's not all about the money, but you can take your time and ideas and help build some of these community foundations in your area.
Hey, Chris, we definitely have to ask you about, what these past several months have been like for your business because, you guys being a retail operation, I know you had to shut down for a period of time. And I know that could not have been easy. So, for everybody, obviously it's been wild. So we got to find out from you, what these months have been like and how you guys have navigated these uncharted waters of the pandemic and how your business has been doing.
Yeah. So, I don't think, I think everybody had to assess where they were and figure out, can I survive? It really gets into a survival. And so what we had to do was close our stores, not only for the community, and for, and to obviously, resist the COVID virus, and be partners with everybody else. But it was also, how do we survive and get through this period of time and come out with enough money to sustain, right? So it becomes some financial decisions. And so some of those financial decisions were some of the hardest decisions we've ever made, including laying everybody off. We had to, lay off our entire company. And then Michigan has a thing where you can do a work share where Michigan will pay unemployment for a certain percentage and then you can work another percentage. And so we had 18 of us left out of, 170 that stayed on board on this work share. So it was an incredibly intense period of time to try to figure out how do we just stay in business. And so closing our doors was hard, laying people off was hard. And then the next thing that was extremely hard was this PPP loan that came about, which was fantastic and actually helped us out in a survival way to get us through this period of time. But it was not easy because it was like, what are the rules? What are we really doing? How do we navigate this? What do we communicate to our staff? What do we need to measure to make sure that the loan was forgiven? So all those things continue to change, and I think this is it's an interesting time of not being set on any old paradigms. It's like you have to look every day. What's today's information? How do I utilize it? And how do I go forward? And I have to say, I'm going to go back to this leadership. We have an incredible group of young leaders that helped us navigate through this. And then my co-owners, we worked on it daily, not only when we were closed, but then as we reopened and we could only open with 10 customers coming in our stores at one time. And this is during a time for our industry, March, April, May, that's our busiest time because people are getting outdoors. They're starting to run. They're starting to walk again. And track and field is huge. And so we sell a ton of kids that are in track and field. And so losing that business was turbulent. It was like, this is an extremely hard period of time for us to not be open. And so we, again, had to make some hard decisions. We've shrunk our staff considerably. So we didn't, and again, this is the business decisions, not always the human decisions, but if you make good business decisions, the humans come out okay. Most of the time, but it's like, we could not keep everybody on our payroll. There was just no way. So we had to let some people go. And we had to move forward with who, we felt we could really make sure that the company gets back on its feet and then moves into the future in in a very positive way. So all that said, I mean, it's been hard financially, but it's been even harder in the human connections and human support and in the relationships. But when you make these decisions as leaders and you communicate with clarity, people respond with, I believe in you, back to that trust. And we did get a lot of that. Although, I mean, I think there are times you just have to make a decision and go, this is the decision I need to make today. And maybe people won't understand 100%, but we're moving in this direction. So wow. I think every business has probably gone through this, right, in this year. And for us, it is about leaving the past in the past. I mean, not the foundational part, our values and stuff like that, but then reinventing and re-engineering how we do business today, tomorrow, and in 2021.
Wow. And you said leave the past in the past. Big believer of that. We just got to move forward and know how to navigate through these things. Another thing I was paying close attention to when you're talking, and just having a sports background, what happens when you go through adverse situations, what happens is finger pointing starts. Bad teams, start blaming each other. Good teams come together. And it seemed like you guys had a good group of people that came together and found a way to continue to make things happen. And the last thing I want to hit on this, and I think is very important for people that's listening, is, okay, you guys had to make budget cuts. Somebody had to go. So everyone that's listening, what's going to keep you? What value do you add to that team to where you have to stay on board? Somebody has to go. So, guys, I want you to start thinking about what value do you add and what's going to keep you around. But I thought that was perfect, Chris, and that was great, and I think it'll be beneficial that people were able to hear you talk about that.
Thank you. I just want to keep listening to you now.
I know, right? I mean, it honestly, though, like, it sounds a little bit harsh what you just said, Mateen, but it's true. I mean, that is life. I mean, life is competitive. I mean, it isn't about participation trophies, or in this case, it's just, not everybody is going to be able to, like you said, stay part of the team in certain situations. So it is a good point, and it is worth reminding people that no matter what you're going through, every single day you got to try and bring it, right? You got to try and be the best version of you, and we're all dealing with adversity right now. Everybody's got distractions and whatnot, but Chris, I know you're no different, but it's a good reminder, try to not think and not focus on the things that you can't control. Focus on what you can control and do your best every single day.
Yeah, and that can be when there's not only when there's stress on like decreased sales for Gazelle Sports. It can be I'm growing so much, and you can growth can hide bad decisions. And I know the market right now with the low interest rates and stuff like that. There's lots of opportunity out there, right? But the thing is that don't forget your discipline during those good times either. I'm sure in 2000, Mateen, you have lots of stories about let's make sure we're disciplined to get to our final goal, because it was going good a lot of times, I'm sure. And it's not just the good times don't just roll without that discipline behind them.
Exactly. And people, sometimes when you're winning, you look past things. And I'll wrap it up because I know we got to get going. But I coach like my son who's 11 years old. But it's like we winning by 20 points or losing by 20 points. If a kid takes a bad shot, I'm going to point that out, because it's going to be a game that we're going to be tied up. And if you take a bad shot, that could cost us the game. So like you said, just because you're winning, keep things tight. Don't lose your values and lose everything that made you what you are. Keep everything tight if you want to you have success consistently.
It's great advice. Chris, it's been great conversation today, learning about you and the story of your company and how you guys have evolved over the years. And of course, how you've weathered the storm here during the pandemic. And you guys are a retail operation, but anybody can go online and buy your shoes. So tell people how they can do that.
Yeah, we have a great website. It's gazellesports.com. Pretty obvious, but gazellesports.com. And we have great product for you, whether you're walking, running, working out. The gyms are opening back up, so people are starting to do that again. So we have great apparel for all of that too. So, and great gear. So it's, but if you do want to come into our stores, you know, we're in Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, Holland, and then over in the southeast side, we're in Northville and in Birmingham. So would love to see you and shake your hand or give you an elbow bump or whatever. Social distance, of course, and wear a mask. So we're all into that.
I'm telling you, Mateen, we're going little field trip. But we're gonna get you properly outfitted with some running shoes because I know you're getting into it too. You're gonna try, especially after this conversation with Chris. I mean, now you definitely got the bug. So welcome to the club officially on behalf of Chris and myself. We're going to Gazelle. We're gonna get you a proper pair of running shoes, and then Chris, at some point soon, you're gonna see Mateen and myself hitting the running trail. You'll be passing us by. You'll probably be zooming by both of us.
I don't know. Yeah, it'd be fun to just get out and move with you guys and go for a little run.
Yeah, it's hey, any run is a good run. Like you said, most of them have been solo these last several months. But yeah, it would be fun for sure. Chris Lampen-Crowell from Gazelle Sports, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate the time.
This has been awesome. Thank you. It's an honor.